The ancient castle of Drakmor had stood for 3 centuries, its stone walls holding secrets that most humans had forgotten. In the deepest chamber, where torchlight barely reached, a small dragon baby named Ember lay curled against the cold floor, his silver scales dulled by grief. His cries echoed through the corridors, a haunting melody of loss that made even the bravest guards shudder. Julia pressed her mop against the stone floor, her calloused hands working methodically as she had done for the past 15 years. As the head janitor of Drakmor Castle, she had cleaned every corner, scrubbed every surface, and learned to ignore the strange sounds that sometimes drifted from the lower levels. But tonight, the sound was different. Tonight, she heard something that pierced through her practiced indifference, the cry of a child in pain. She followed the sound down the spiral staircase, her footsteps careful on the worn stone steps. The castle's lord had forbidden anyone from entering the dragon's chamber, but Julia had never been good at following rules that contradicted her heart. When she reached the heavy oak door, she pushed it open slowly, the hinges groaning in protest. What she saw made her breath catch. A dragon no larger than a house cat sat in the center of the room, his body trembling with each sob. His eyes, bright amber pools filled with tears, looked up at her with such profound sadness that Julia felt her own eyes begin to water. "Oh, you poor thing," she whispered, kneeling down despite every instinct telling her that dragons were dangerous, even small ones. Ember watched the human woman approach. In his short life of only 3 months, he had known only one companion, his twin brother, Ash. They had hatched together, played together, learned to breathe their first sparks of fire together. But yesterday, the castle's lord had taken Ash away, selling him to a traveling merchant who collected rare creatures. Ember had been deemed too small, too weak to be worth much. So he remained alone in this cold chamber, mourning the other half of his soul. Julia reached out her hand slowly. "I won't hurt you," she said softly. "I promise." The dragon baby didn't move away. Instead, he crawled closer, pressing his small head against her palm. His scales felt warm, like sun-heated stones, and Julia could feel the rapid beating of his tiny heart. "Mama," a voice called from the doorway. "Mama, where are you?" Julia turned to see her son Oscar standing at the entrance, his 11-year-old frame silhouetted against the torchlight from the corridor. His dark hair was disheveled, and his brown eyes were wide with concern. "Oscar, I told you to wait upstairs," Julia said, though her voice held no real reprimand. "I heard crying," Oscar replied, stepping into the room. His eyes found Ember, and his expression shifted from concern to wonder. Is that a dragon?" "Yes, sweetheart, a very sad dragon." Oscar approached slowly, his natural curiosity overcoming any fear. He had grown up in the castle, helping his mother with her work, and had heard countless stories about dragons from the guards and knights, but he had never imagined they could look so ... vulnerable. "Why is he crying?" Oscar asked, kneeling beside his mother. "I think he's lost someone," Julia said, stroking Ember's head gently. "Someone very important to him." Ember looked up at the young boy, seeing something in Oscar's open, honest face that reminded him of Ash, the same kindness in the eyes, the same gentle curiosity. Another wave of grief washed over him, and he let out a mournful whimper. Oscar's heart broke at the sound. He had known loss to his father had died 2 years ago, leaving just him and his mother to navigate the world together. He understood what it meant to have a piece of yourself torn away, to feel incomplete without thinking. Oscar reached out and carefully picked up the small dragon, cradling him against his chest. Ember stiffened for a moment, then relaxed into the warmth of the boy's embrace. "It's okay," Oscar whispered. "I know what it's like to lose someone you love." Ember's crying began to quiet, replaced by small hiccuping breaths. The warmth of the boy's body, the steady rhythm of his heartbeat, provided a comfort the dragon baby hadn't felt since his brother was taken. "What happened to your brother?" Oscar asked, somehow knowing that was the source of the dragon's pain. Julia started to speak, but Ember surprised them both by forming images in their minds, a dragon gift that few humans ever experienced. They saw Ash, identical to Ember but with scales that shimmered like smoke. They saw the twins playing, curling around each other in sleep. And then the terrible moment when the castle's lord dragged Ash away, ignoring Ember's desperate cries. Tears rolled down Oscar's cheeks. "That's not fair," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Brothers should stay together." He held Ember closer, feeling the dragon's trembling begin to subside. An idea formed in Oscar's mind, one that felt both crazy and completely right. "I lost my papa," Oscar said quietly. "And you lost your brother, but maybe," he paused, looking into Ember's amber eyes, "maybe we could be brothers. I mean, I'm not a dragon, and you're not human, but that doesn't mean we can't be family. If you want, I could be your brother. Ember went completely still. In dragon culture, brotherhood was a sacred bond, whether by blood or by choice. To offer such a thing, especially across species, was unheard of. Yet as he looked at this human boy who held him with such care, who understood his pain without judgment, Ember felt something shift in his chest. The emptiness left by Ash's absence would never fully disappear, but perhaps it didn't have to remain a gaping wound. The small dragon lifted his head and gently pressed his forehead against Oscar's cheek, a dragon gesture of acceptance and trust. Oscar laughed through his tears, understanding the meaning without needing words. Then it's settled, Oscar declared. We're brothers now. Julia watched the exchange with wonder and no small amount of worry. She knew the castle's lord would never allow Oscar to keep the dragon. But looking at her son's face, the first genuine smile she had seen since his father's death, she couldn't bring herself to dampen this moment. We'll figure something out, she promised, ruffling Oscar's hair. Brothers stick together, after all. From that night forward, Oscar visited Ember every evening after finishing his chores. He brought scraps of food, told stories, and taught the dragon baby about the human world. In return, Ember showed Oscar how to see heat signatures in the dark and shared the ancient dragon songs his mother had taught him before she died. The bond between them grew stronger with each passing day. Ember's scales began to brighten, returning to their natural lustrous silver. His cries no longer echoed through the castle corridors. Instead, the sound of laughter, both human and dragon, drifted up from the lower chambers. When the castle's lord finally discovered their friendship, he was prepared to separate them, but he found something unexpected. The small dragon he had deemed worthless had grown strong and healthy under Oscar's care. More importantly, Ember had developed a fierce loyalty to the boy, and dragons loyal to humans were worth more than gold. A bargain was struck. Oscar would become Ember's official keeper, and in exchange, when the dragon grew large enough, he would help protect the castle. It wasn't the life Julia had imagined for her son, but as she watched Oscar and Ember play in the castle courtyard, their laughter mingling with the sound of wind in the towers, she knew it was the right one. Two souls, broken by loss, had found healing in the most unexpected place in each other. A human boy and a dragon baby, brothers not by blood or species, but by the choice of two hearts that refused to remain broken. And in the quiet moments, when Ember would grow sad thinking of Ash, Oscar would hold him close and whisper, "I'm here, brother, I'm here." It was enough. It was everything.